All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for clicking and staying with me here. Today is January 23rd, 2022. And I'm going to continue with this little series I got going on deer nutrition and deer habitat. And so what's going on today here in Clare? It's got a little bit of snow. It's colder. We had rain this week. The deer movement was hit and miss. So on the nice days, there was a lot of deer movement all day. When it was nasty and rainy and also cold, not as much deer movement. And they're just out there eating and surviving. Trivia question today. How old is a buck at full body development? So full structural, bone structural development. What do they consider a mature buck? That is one part of the question. Second part of the question is, how about a doe? How about a female? What's the answer? Comment below your answer, and maybe I'll pick a winner to send you something cool. I don't know what I got. Maybe a koozie sticker or something. Okay, this episode I want to focus on food plot nutrition. We focused on some native natural habitat nutrition, and last episode, you got to go back and look at it if you haven't seen that. And those links that I put down in the description, watching those, again, they can describe it a little bit easier than I can. They use sometimes terms that it's hard to understand, and I'm trying to put it in layman's terms to try to just correlate how I deal with things and what I have learned from them. But I had some comments saying, what can we plant for food plots for nutrition? And that's a good question, even though we're kind of always thinking about food plots. I am a food plot guy. I put in a lot of food plots. I put in between 50, 60 acres a year. And all around this area, I probably travel within a 60-mile radius of Clare, Michigan. And so I put in a lot of plots, and I put in a diverse seeds, and a lot of times, most of my food plots are put in for the fall, for fall hunting. So they get put in July, August. Sometimes they do run it a little bit later than that, but it's because of weather and how I can get materials down and what's just kind of how the whole system works, where I'm at, and how everything lays out. We got to remember what we learned from those videos, and I'm going to link this other video here. MSU Deer LAB, which is Mississippi State University Deer LAB, has a series of food plot principles. I think there's an 8-part series. They're about 5 to 8 minute videos. Lots of great information, similar to what I'm talking about now. Got to remember, my takeaways on this is food plots are supplemental. You can't grow a deer herd on food plots alone. You got to have that good native habitat if you want healthy deer and healthy bucks and bigger bucks. Food plot is quick fix. It's a quick fix. So if you're going to put just a food plot program into your hunt club or your land, it is not all you can do. It's a start. Don't get me wrong. It works. It attracts deer, but it's not a long-term solution to seeing deer every year. And it's just not reliable enough. And that's what they mean by that. And pounds of food per acre, this is a positive. You can get a lot of good food pounds per acre with a food plot. So that's why it's, very attractive to do, because you're putting in a lot of food and it's still growing, so very beneficial. However, you can't just rely on that as, well, I'm going to put in food plots, I'm good now. Well, you got to do some more. You got to think about doing other things and enhancing that native vegetation. I'm going to start with, so in the spring coming up, I don't plant a whole lot of food plots. Most of the food plots I plant, like I stated just a bit ago, are planted for in July and August for hunting. If I do plant early season, or if I do plant food plots in June, May and June, it's corn or soybeans. And I don't do a whole lot of that. I did plant quite a bit of soybeans last year. And with the National Deer Association, the NDA, formerly QDMA, there is a seed conservation that they've started nationwide. And if you have a local branch in your area, you need to get with them to see if they're bringing in seed. Because you can get that seed for $25 a bag. Instead of paying, $40, $50 a bag, you can get it for half price. It might even be more. The corn, especially, $25 a bag. Now, corn, hard to grow, very expensive to grow. The nutritional value isn't great, but the attractiveness is. And if you can get that corn standing up all winter, it's, pretty beneficial as well. But you've got to plant a lot of it. 3 acres of corn and a normal, if you go buy a bag of 3 acres, or one bag, 50 pounds, plants 3 acres, but it could be $250. $250 a bag. Where this conservation seed is $25 a bag. Soybeans, now the soybeans, you got to plant. That's right. So there was 60% germination last year. So you had to plant more of it because of the lower germination rate. But you can't beat soybeans for nutritional value, especially with lactating does. It's going to have plenty enough protein. And I'll go through that in a second, what these deer kind of require when for protein levels. And everything kind of correlates with that, with the other minerals that they need, phosphorus and potassium and calcium for growing antlers. Okay, deer nutrition requirements, minimums for different parts of the season. And I'll put up a picture in here. Hopefully it shows up. It might not because it was from the camera and I cropped it and tried to paste it on there. But different parts of the season, they require different nutrition. So a fawn, for an average fawn to survive, the protein levels are 14 to 18%, which are quite high. Being babies, when we feed babies, humans, we got to feed them right off the bat a lot of food and try to get as much nutrients in there as possible. Now, to get an excellent or an excelled fawn, you're looking at 16 to 20% protein levels, and that will get you maybe your higher quality fawns. Yearlings, which are 1.5 year old bucks and does, for maintenance, 11% protein. So when we're talking about soybeans, they're up in a range of 30%, those soybean leaves, 30% protein. When you take a look at corn, when you get a finished kernel or a finished cob, I think there's only 6% protein in that stuff. But it's high in energy and highly digestive. Adult deer for maintenance, just general living, maintenance 6 to 10%. So throughout the winter, they'd like to get 6 to 10% protein. And that might be hard to find. Especially if it's a hard winter and lots of snow. And what I need to get, and if I forget, I'm going to write this down right now. Maybe I'll stop the video. But I will get what the browse is, the winter browse nutrition is. And I think I may have, like, Greenbrier, they says 5 to 12%, and sumac 4 to 6%, acorns 5 to 7%. It's not quite getting to that 11%, and I believe those are winter numbers. I'll clarify that, but I'm going to stop this right now, make sure I take that note, and I'll fix it if that's not the case. Okay, back to adult maintenance, or yearling maintenance, 11%. Adult maintenance, 6 to 10%. Now, adult doe who is pregnant and in their late stage, so March, April, May, possibly 11 to 15%, which is ironic that it's springtime, things are melting off, and now all that green stuff is popping back up nice and fresh. So she's got, hopefully, in good years, it's all weather driven, hopefully those does can finish out their pregnancy with that high. Now, when they are lactating and producing milk for does, 14 to 22%, which is quite high. But again, you got hopefully lots of food in there. In June, in July, it kind of gets a little hotter, but the first month or so, you should have, there's soybeans coming up in farmers' fields, but also a lot of that native browse is kicking. And I gotta get, and I hopefully will remember in June to get the percentages of, like, let's say ragweed for an example, and I know that's in the 25% range. Ragweed, native vegetation, goldenrod, dandelions, poison ivy, all those broadleaf weeds that are basically the staple of their diet. Now let's get to a buck. Antler development, during antler development, so spring, summer, 15 to 16% tops. So you can see a doe requires more protein levels, keeping that fawn healthy and alive, than a buck does growing antler. So you can't understate the importance of nutrition when it comes to doe. Okay. All right, now I'll flip to what to plant nutrition-wise for deer in food plots. Besides in the summer, my go-to food plot mix when I start planting in July and August, my base is cereal rye. Cereal rye, and I don't have the nutrition here, but cereal rye is my go-to. I've tried oats, I've tried wheat, and I don't have anything against them, but rye works. What I like about rye the most is it's kind of a nurse crop, and right now it's green and growing. It germinates at, you can plant it, it germinates at 34 degrees or 38 degrees, 34 degrees, 38 degrees it's producing. You can plant the stuff right now, you could. Really, there's never a bad time to plant rye. And if it's above 34 degrees, it'll germinate. Also, what I like about it is it matures in the spring, and in the early summer, it grows in those, especially those food plots that are established. I like it because it grows up high, grows up waist high or higher. Deer can hide in there, and fawns can hide in there. And then I have been using, I don't have a crimper yet, but it's called a roller crimper. If you don't look it up, Dr. Grant Woods does this regenerative farming on his food plots. Doesn't have to use fertilizer, doesn't use sprays. So if done correctly, and it's hit and miss here in central Michigan, it is. You got to plant a lot of cereal rye, and if the deer hammer it in the spring, it's not going to work. And they do. Meaning they eat it right down. If they eat it down and it can't mature, then it don't work. I got a hunt club close to here that I do, and the cereal rye is just completely ate off because their native vegetation there is not up to par. They either have too many deer or not enough native vegetation, or both. And the deer are relying on the food plots, and they struggle every year. Now, in their defense a little bit, it's really sandy, but it's pretty common. It's, turns into going, oh yeah, it makes sense why this is happening. So I take that cereal rye, I'll either crimp it down or I'll use my planter. I've done videos on this before. I'll crisscross it, the planter. That rye that I laid down turns into mulch, turns into topsoil. So, hey, it works good. That's my staple. If I'm planting a perennial clover plot, I'll put the clover plot down and I'll put rye in with it. That is my nurse crop. In June the following summer, just mow it off, and there's my clover right there. Okay, so in my mixes, my small mixes are turnips. 3 different types of turnips, I think. Purple top's my favorite. I got rape, radishes. That's becoming one of my favorite radishes is. And the for an example, the nutrition in a turnip in the root, winter 12 to 15%, plenty enough. And I was at my buddy's house the other day, Friday, and he planted purple tops and he had some daikons. He usually mixes it, but he said he had some daikon turnips or radishes, daikon turnips, I think. Anyway, he planted them separate, and they were hammering the red tops right now, purple tops turnips right now, and kind of laying off the daikons. But the daikons are kind of better for your soil. They work your soil, and he had a great crop, good soil, great growing conditions where he had it. So that's an example, though. So everything you plant pretty much has enough nutrition in it. But what will it last and how will it do it? And I haven't seen that, like in rye, I haven't seen that happen in oats or wheat here where I'm at in central Michigan. What else is in my mix? So I got probably 6 to 8 different types of seed in my fall blends, and they seem to work really good. Now, turnips are hit and miss with weather. It's all weather related and drive and soil nutrition. I plant in a lot of sandy soils. It's hit and miss with growing season on how big of a bulb I get on those roots, on those turnips. I actually like a golf ball size, maybe baseball size tops. But if most of the time I have so many deer that are eating them off, they eat them off before they can even mature. And that's what happens to most of my places that I plant. But the nutrition requirements, I wouldn't worry about it a whole lot. Pretty much anything you plant they'll have plenty enough nutrition in it. But again, it's supplemental. It is it's not a quick fix. It's a quick fix, basically. It's not a long-term solution. Got to include your native vegetation. And plus it's expensive, but hey, I love doing it. I love putting them in. It's another tool in the toolbox. Hinge cutting, TSI, timber stand improvements, cover switchgrass, and you name it. All these different tools in the toolbox you got to have. I'm going to end the video right there. I got to get painting on this. Appreciate you watching. I'll put some links in. Hopefully those pop-ups work. And appreciate you watching and commenting. My affiliates, sponsors are down. Or they're not sponsors, I guess. They're just affiliates I work with. Legendary Whitetails has a code, and I forgot the code. I'll put it in the link. For 25% off. And then Tide B also has links I send every day. But take a look at my socials. For that stuff as well. I try to post, when they have a sale, I try to post it right on there for gear. Sorry about the shakiness. I've been holding on to this and my arm's tired. God bless you. God bless our troops. God bless the USA.